I think those comments should remain where they are, and you look back to what other people have said. The only thing that I need to say, there's a time when a very senior politician used to talk about Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga.
Ladies and gentlemen, Siaya Governor James Orengo just compared himself to Raila Odinga to escape accountability for insulting a fellow governor, a woman perhaps.
I think those comments should remain where they are, and you look back to what other people have said. The only thing that I need to say, there's a time when a very senior politician used to talk about Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga persistently, that he's uncircumcised, he is not a real man, and the reaction of Prime Minister Raila Odinga in public was, huyu mzee ana shida gani na chombo changu. So take the question back to where it came from.
MCs are calling for impeachment. The Council of Governors is being asked to step in, and Orengo's defense, other people have said it worse. That is not a defense. That is a confession that the Siaya governor has nothing better to say. Siaya Governor James Orengo made remarks about Homa Bay Governor Gladys Wanga that were called offensive, unconstitutional, and demeaning to women leaders across this country. Kisumu County Assembly Member of Parliament, led by Deputy Speaker Nerea Okombo, demanded a public apology. James Orengo instead refused. On Tuesday, May 20, 2026, the Siaya governor told journalists the comments should stay where they are exactly. This is what is confirmed. The Siaya governor did not deny making the remarks. There was no apology, no explanation of what was actually said. What Orengo did instead was to point to a past incident where a senior politician repeatedly made remarks about Raila Odinga's body and said the ODM leader chose to ignore it rather than escalate. Kisumu MCs were specific in their legal argument. Deputy Speaker Nerea Okombo cited Article 73 of the Constitution, which requires state officers to exercise authority in a way that honors and dignity to their office. The Deputy Speaker also cited the County Government Act and the famous Chapter 6 on leadership and integrity. These are not vague moral complaints. These are constitutional provisions with roots. The MCA's father called on the Council of Governors to intervene and compel a public apology, arguing that when one governor's conduct brings devolution into disruptive, the council has a constitutional duty to act. Orengo's response to all of these was simple. Look at what others have done and got away with. That is the entire defense the Siaya governor is offering. James Orengo is a trained lawyer, a senior politician, someone who has stood in courtrooms and argued for constitutional rights for decades. The Siaya governor knows exactly what Article 73 says. Orengo knows exactly what Chapter 6 demands, and the decision was made deliberately not to apologize, not because nothing wrong was done, because the calculation was that there is no need to. That calculation is the real story here. When a senior leader responds to a constitutional challenge by pointing at someone else's past behavior, that is not a defense. That is a clear message that accountability in Kenyan politics is selective, situational, and only applies to those without enough power to ignore it. The problem is not what the Siaya governor said about Homa Bay's Gladys Wanga. The problem is what the refusal to apologize says about it all. If the Siaya governor's defense is that other leaders have said it worst and face no consequences, is Orengo admitting that Kenya's political class have quietly agreed that powerful men and women can say whatsoever they want about other people as long as the title is senior enough? This goes far beyond Orengo and Gladys Wanga. What is being tested right now is whether women in Kenyan politics can expect the same basic respect as their male counterparts, and whether the institutional design to enforce that standard will actually move when called upon. The Council of Governors have been publicly challenged to act. If the council stays silent, the answer is already given. Every woman who wants to lead this country is watching what happens next, and so is every leader calculating what can be said without consequences. If the Council of Governors has not spoken, the ODM party leadership has not moved. The Siaya governor has not apologized, and the MCs who raised the alarm are still waiting to see if anyone in power actually responds, and whether this becomes another story that makes noise for a week and quietly disappear when Kenyans move on with their life. Watch whether the Council of Governors calls an emergency session. Watch whether ODM says anything at all. Watch whether Homa Bay Governor Gladys Wanga will speak publicly. Because the silence from the top is not neutral. In Kenyan politics, silence from power is always an answer. And deep down, you already know what it means.